like I have Horizon Forbidden West, okay, to play, but I'm thinking, and Garrett, I don't know how much you have played the From games, but should I, a person who has never played a From game, start Elden Ring? What are your thoughts? Either of the two of you,
before he launches into this, I would just like to say, is this a personal slight on me that you're not going, should I play Cuphead? That you'll go to arguably, I haven't played it myself yet, but like arguably a game with just as much reputation for being difficult, but just not the one I want you to play out of spite.
Look, at the end of the day, right? I'm thinking about Game of the Year here, right? I'm thinking last year I missed having input on a game that the other three of you had played and was a really important game. I feel like everyone, maybe bar Mark, although I'm not sure, is going to be...
I would be, like, given his lack of history with these games, or the trying of these games, I would not hold my breath on him picking up Elden Ring.
Yeah, like, I don't mind about being buried by Sean McGee. He knows I'm probably a wuss when it comes to these sort of things anyway, right? But should I play Elden Ring? Garrett, what are your thoughts as a person that may have experience with it? What do you think?
I think the big talking point going into this game is it's quote unquote From Software's most accessible game.
Is it though? Is it accessible? What, honestly?
Is it in the way that every Monster Hunter was the new most accessible Monster Hunter and they were still imperceptibly weird games?
Yes. Listen, it is, but I don't think in the way that people probably think it is. I think when people hear that, they hear it's easier, which it's not. It's not easier. It's not like simpler mechanically. It's still a From Software game. But the difference here is when you hit a wall in Bloodborne or you hit a wall in Dark Souls, you're just at that wall. You have to fight that boss, and if you can't beat it, that's the end. You can't do anything. Whereas this game is so open and has such a large degree of freedom that if you hit a wall, you can walk 20 hours in the other direction. So I think that's the way in which it's more accessible. That, like, I don't think this game has walls because it literally doesn't have walls, like literal walls. You can just go in a different direction.
I see. Right.
It's kind of like it's got that, like you said, it's the first true post Breath of the Wild where, like, you will encounter areas or mini bosses in Breath of the Wild that will whip your ass early on in the game, but you can go away, find some more shrines somewhere else, get a few upgraded weapons and shit like that, and you can come back and you can kick some ass later on. You're not necessarily stuck unless you want to be stuck.
Is there a way to be
you can brute
OP?
force it as long as you want, but you don't have to.
Like, is there a way to become OP, Garrett? Or is it like...
100%.
Yeah, there is. Okay, because I kind of don't mind that, like, going out and grinding and becoming powerful and then taking down a boss that was beating the shit out of me. I just don't want to hit up against a boss where I have to press dodge at the exact moment, like, every single time. It doesn't matter how many souls I've harvested or levels I've gained or armors I've found or weapons I've found, but it's still going to beat the shit out of me. That would make me really difficult for me,
I imagine... if it's anything like the other games, there is still an element of you definitely having to do that, but the more you beef yourself up and try to become OP'd, the less you making a single mistake is going to one-shot you.
Yeah, you can't just be bad, but you could dramatically reduce the margin of error.
That's what I'm looking for, yeah.
And I think that this game is more grindable than any of the other ones, and I think like the average enemy is less difficult just because of the open world.
Yeah.
Because I think a big thing about Souls games is you'll just get cornered and you'll get the shit kicked out of you by the most basic small enemy and you'll feel completely demoralized. Whereas there are dungeons in this game where that can happen. There are like little holes in the wall you can just walk down, and there's these crypts and you can explore. But everything in the open world, you can just get the jump on and kill very quickly.
I saw footage of Dan Reichert just riding around on a horse, and he kind of stopped to look at the environment, and he was tackled violently off that horse by a giant wolf. Does that sort of thing happen quite a lot?
That is the From Software experience, though, because I was just playing one of those quips before we started this podcast. I walk into a room, character runs from the wall behind me, just stabs me in the back. It's like, you absolute piece of shit cunt. Why did you do this to me?
I wonder if you were to pick this up as a quest to beat Elden Ring, is this your equivalent of the way that, like, my initial motivation in beating Cuphead was because it's a Mark Robinson game, and it makes it less special that Mark beat it if I could beat Cuphead. And this is like you and Sean McGee's version of that. It's like
if this clown
McGee, if I can beat Elden Ring, these games ain't shit.
Yep. If this fucking emo kid here who loves Life is Strange and Pokemon can beat Elden Ring, no, I mean there's an element of that, of course, but I want to be a part of what everyone is saying is going to be one of the Game of the Year contenders, but I kind of wanted to ask whether or not it would work for me. Like, I'm really nervous. I don't want to like buy a game and then play it a few times and then never play it again out of resentment because I'm just not good enough at it like that.
Here's another angle to come at for an appeal for you, because whatever about how much I end up playing this game, like I showed you on the screen there, I bought it, and partly the motivation part of the motivation is that it's a fantasy world, and I was like, this is the kind of like, you know, I was close to getting on board with the Lovecraftian shit in Bloodborne. Now this is the one where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna give this a proper go because I love the feel of this world. But the other angle I'm looking at it for you from is that selfishly, getting weekly updates from you on here will be tremendous content. Like, even if you absolutely suffer through it, like worse than I did with Cuphead, think of the audio, Jack.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I hear like at the start of the game, you're in kind of a sort of standard, you know, Soulsborne-y castle, and you have to get through that section. My main scare, and I don't know how long that section is, Garrett, or how difficult it is to negotiate, but my main scare is I can't even get past that, in which case the audio will be abysmal. Because I'll just be like,
it's only a tutorial, you'll be fine. There is a scripted boss death immediately just to teach you who's boss. It's like the game is like, oh, you have to die to this boss just so you can actually get the game started, just so you know what's happening here.
It's like at the start, like I can't speak for all the other games, but I know at the start of Bloodborne, like you get attacked before you have like by like a wolf or something before you even have any weapons in your hand, and like technically you could beat this thing, but it's set up so that you will die, so that it can explain to you the hunter's dream and that. So like the thing that, again, like it's not like for like with Cuphead by any stretch of the imagination, but in terms of just like changing your mentality about what death means in a video game, that was the moment, the turning point for me with Cuphead, was to realize that when you die in a game like Cuphead, and same with Soulsborne games,
you die for good.
You die, you die in real life. If you die in the Matrix, no, it's that you die to learn in these games. Like we grow up like the vast majority of games. You're like, the way they work is that death is a failure to like complete your objectives or whatever like that. But Soulsborne games, Cuphead, boss rush type games are set up so that you will learn. They are fair enough to learn why you died, so that you can, you know, improve, work out patterns and things like that. So it's more about flicking that switch in your head that just getting beaten by a boss and dying isn't like this kind of, oh fuck. It's like, right, what have I learned from this? I will be better next time.
Yeah,
we go again.
I do think I have that attitude, Dave. Like, when I die in a game, I do feel like, shit, you know, this is an ultimate failure. You know, for like the one or two times like a Metal Gear Solid boss will get me or something, I'm like, shit. You know, and you always figure out strategies fairly quickly there, but I feel like the strategies required in this, they obviously require you to get the shit kicked out of you multiple times, unless you're like a veteran of this shit.
You are not expected to like beat a boss anywhere close to your first time in these type of games.
And if you ever do, it feels so goddamn good.
I like a third time we mentioned him on the show, but fucking was it Barry beat Father Gascoigne? He beat him first go.
He beat one of the bosses first goes anyway. Yeah, one of the ones everyone was like, "Oh, this is the tough," and then he just strolled in and beat it.
I think it was either Father Gascoigne or the Cleric Beast, and it's like it's one of the ones that everybody hates and like they love the boss design, but in terms of like, this fucking kicked my ass. Fucking Barry beats it first time on stream. was like, "God, motherfucker."
The whole point is watching him suffer.
Yeah. That's why I tuned in every week live for Mario Sunshine with him. He suffered more in that than he ever did in Bloodborne.
I think Mario Sunshine is probably harder than Bloodborne in
some
places.
ways.
Yeah.
Probably
it's less reasonable, that's for sure.
It would like chuck you miles away from where you were, even just to get back into one of those platforming sections.
I think it'll be fun if the two of us have a pact to try and get through it. Not like necessarily a race to who gets through it first, because it'll be like me and Niner with Cuphead originally, where he was nearly finished it when I started it, and it was the camaraderie that got us through. If we can be each other's support network and give it a proper go,
yep.
I'm willing to commit to that. You know what I mean?
And the game does have that Breath of the Wild thing where there is a new thing in every direction.
Yeah.
Like every single direction.
I guess.
So if you're going somewhere and you're stuck, and you can fast travel at any time to any point on the map, it's more modern than a lot of the Souls games. You don't have to go to a fast travel point. You can just open your map and you can fast travel to any of your fast travel points. So it is more approachable. Not in the ways, it's not easier. I don't think, unless you literally grinded the whole game, so you just rocked through and just murdered everything immediately. Like, you will die a lot. It still has that From Software level, like, kind of design. It still has that From Software combat. It still has those From Software bosses that will kill you, will kick your ass, you'll die. But I think, as said, because it's open world, you can just go somewhere else.
The thing I always use when I talk to people who don't know what FromSoft games are like, I always use the anecdote that in Dark Souls 2, there is a trophy that you get the first time you die, and the trophy is called "This is Dark Souls." So, like, that is when you get into your head that is the mentality of these games, then I think it makes it a bit easier when you can, like, not chastise yourself for the failure. It's funny because in some ways, like I mentioned how, like, this doesn't seem like Mark's flavor of game, but in some ways it feels very much like a Mark Robinson game, because, like, he plays games that I view as actively punishing and masochistic to play, like the Super Beat Boys and shit like that. So I don't see it as being a million mile, like, obviously mechanically it's a million miles off, but in terms of, like, the emotions that come up playing these games, I don't see it as being a million miles off. So yeah, I think this will be an Elden Ring progress report. We'll have to do a segment if we're going to do this. I'm
worried.
I believe in you, Jack. I believe in you.
Because I wanna be that guy who can go, you know what, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna play this game, but I also don't want to be that guy that just falls off a cliff. With this game, because if
it makes you feel better, that fight in Pokemon is harder than anything I've experienced in Elden Ring so far. So if you can do that,
like, because when you said, Garrett, there's a new thing in every direction. One on Breath of the Wild, the best thing about that is vibes. Like when you find a sort of like a kind of half broken temple or a church, or like, just like an awesome area of woodland or something, and there's a few things in there that, like, might give you a little bit of jip, but nothing really. I don't like the constant anxiety of thinking, that thing over there looks so awesome, and I get halfway there and, like, a giant dragon just, like, steps on
you will
me.
walk into the woods and be like, ooh, cool, mysterious woods, and then you'll see the giant bear. And when I say giant bear, I mean giant bear. Oh. And you're like, oh no.
By the way, are you guys familiar with Hank the Tank?
Yes. Maybe that is Hank the Tank.
That is the greatest content on the internet right now. Hank the Tank stories.
As a final thing on Elden Ring, there is, like, a small part of my brain that's like, if Jack gets the other side of this, persuading him to actually do Cuphead will be much easier.
Possibly.
Because, motherfucker, if you can beat or get deep into a FromSoft game, I'll hear none of this. I won't be able to play Cuphead nonsense anymore, because, like, I'm not gonna retread old ground on how much you'll enjoy Cuphead if you can get into the mode like I did that when I finally gave it a go. But I'm excited now. We kind of have each other to egg each other on this.
Yeah, I just thought, like, I'd rather than launch straight into Horizon, I was like, you know what, should I try and play Elden Ring just to see? Because you can't ignore that universal praise. Yeah. Like,
one of the best reviewed games ever.
Number 2 of all time when it came out.
you can't ignore that. Like that is. And like I know that the people that love these games, right? I honestly, I really enjoy whenever we have Sean on and he talks about how much he loves these games, because whenever I hear people that are passionate about stuff, like it gets me invested in not even necessarily the thing, but like just how much they love it, and I kind of really can connect with them.
He's gonna be so proud of us.
Yeah, I hope so. I'd imagine if he is listening to this right now, he's probably playing Elden Ring while this is happening, kind of in the background. But
I checked my Twitter feed a few minutes ago, and the first "in case you've missed a" tweet I saw was Sean McGee. Elden Ring is so good, lads.
Yeah, I believe it. So I'm going to try tentatively and play Elden Ring.
I think we should say, for people's expectations, I don't think either of us are going to rush through this. I think we're going to take our sweet time with it. So don't expect
this might be the rest of my year.
Yeah. So because I think this is going to be one that if I really start getting frustrated with it, I'm going to be rotating it on and off with a game that I find pleasant. you know.
Yep, for sure. Which I think I might. That's why I might dual start Ollie Ollie World as well, because I do have that also waiting on my Switch to go. But holy shit, I don't think I was necessarily blindsided by how good the Elden Ring reviews were, but I think they've really crystallized this. Like, you should invest some time in at least trying to experience this with your own hands as well, rather than just watching YouTube.
I'm going to put his name in the mud here again, but you know how I knew it was going to get such universal praise? When friend of the show Matt Niner said it wasn't on Twitter.
Right, yeah.
Our good friend Matt Niner, we love him to death, but he is the predictions albatross.
Pretty much.
If I had seen earlier in the day that he predicted it wasn't going to get reviewed as well as Bloodborne, I would have put my entire house on it being rated
best game
higher.
of all time. Yeah.
It was a mortal lock to get a higher rating than Bloodborne, and so it came to pass.
Yep.